There were no goals, no real chances and little to talk about on the pitch at the Valley on Saturday, but it felt as though one of the two clubs had won. This week has been historic for Blackpool. After 4 years of boycotts, and despite a potential points deduction hanging over their heads, they have something to celebrate. The Oyston family look to be on their way, courtesy of the club going into receivership. Lyle Taylor and Curtis still battle for the ball during Saturday's 0-0 draw at the Valley. It was a court case that earned those supporters gathered in the Jimmy Seed stand their victory. Not that this was pure celebration, they still need to know what comes next. Still, this was meant to be a clash between the two teams with the most reviled owners in the country. Instead, those in the Jimmy Seed stand have hope again. Robbie Whittaker stood outside the away end on Saturday with a slight grin on his face. He told Sportsmail, "I've not been to Bloomfield Road for 4 years. I've been a season ticket holder since the 1970s, even while living in London. It took me 18 months to get used to not waking up at the crack of dawn on a Saturday to get the train off. This feels like the resumption of normal life for me, because this was a way of life for me." Blackpool supporters had a victory of sorts to celebrate with the decisions this week. Rob Underdown of the Tangerine Knights added, "We always thought we'd get there, that light at the end of the tunnel has suddenly got a lot closer. My dad's 80-odd, he was wondering if he'd ever go see a game again. I know people who have lost people who will never see Blackpool again. To just stop that, it rips your life apart. You can't go see your mates, have a drink and watch your team." Shankly said football is nothing without fans. Well, fans are really nothing without football. The whole Blackpool thing shows, if fans stay united, you can achieve anything. Not that they are counting their chickens before they hatch. Some in the away end chanted about finally going back home. Manager Terry McPhillips said, "If we can get the big crowd back, that would be fantastic for us." Blackpool boss Terry McPhillips said, "If we can get the big crowd back, that would be fantastic." That's what they were singing today. We'll have to see what happens. There was no talk from McPhillips about negatives, only the positives that can come from moving out of the stormy seas of the last few years. Charlton are still in that boat and their situation feels precarious. Prospect Carlin Grant was sold to Huddersfield in January. Lee Bowyer has led Charlton to fifth, but was not allowed to sign a striker to replace him on a free transfer in Lyle Taylor, who plays up front for the Addicts, hammered owner Roland Dutch-Aitler for the decision on Friday. There was a crowd of over 17,000 at the Valley for this dire 0-0 draw, boosted not by additions, but by a £5 ticket promotion. Rick Everett stood opposite the club shop selling fanzine The Voice of the Valley pre-match and said, "The playing side feel they can be candid about the owner. The owner has shown his level of interest in the club. This is a man who hasn't been here since October 2014. Charlton supporters can take some hope from what has happened at Blackpool this week. Even so, they can take something from their opponents on Saturday." Everett added, "They've been very successful in boycotting their ground and driving down revenue. There's been a lot of communication with them and other clubs. We have all worked together and tried to share good practice. We're just pleased they have appeared to have a successful outcome. We'll always be here. We survived 7 years away from the Valley and were able to return to the Valley in the early 1990s. I'm sure in the fullness of time we'll be able to get rid of Roland Dutch-Aitler." As Blackpool